Hello, Debbie. Welcome to Tea Talks.
Hi, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
What tea did you bring with you today?
I've got English breakfast with a
Traditional?
touch of milk. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got with me a peppermint tea because I feel like I need a bit of cleansing at these times. Your course leader for luxury brand management. What sparked your interest in luxury?
When I was at university, in fact, when I was doing my A-levels, even before university, I knew I wanted two things. The first thing was I wanted to work for an international company, and I wanted to buy a sports car. Those were the only two things I really knew I wanted. And my degree at university was languages with European business. So I did French and Spanish and European business. So I targeted agencies and businesses in London, and every day I just went along, smartly dressed, CV in hand. And I ended up having an interview at an agency which looked after the brand L'Oreal. And I went along for an interview at the agency, and they said L'Oreal are looking for somebody just like you with languages, because they want a Spanish and a French speaker who will be able to go over to their European offices. And I said, that's me. And within 24 hours, I was offered the job, and I accepted the position, and I started about a week later. And that's where my career started at L'Oreal. So once I got my foot in the door at L'Oreal, I was able to get on a graduate training scheme, and I worked in different areas throughout the business. And I worked in London, Paris, and Madrid. So that was my time at L'Oreal. And whilst I was at L'Oreal, I then got headhunted by other brands, and I ended up going to Estee Lauder companies. I was head of marketing at Jo Malone. I went over to Clarins, and then I went over to LVMH. And the last brand I worked for permanently, full-time in the corporate world, was De Beers Diamonds. So I kind of climbed my way up.
Yeah, and you've worked for some pretty big names. And what I'm really interested in, when you work for such a massive, famous brand, what are the expectations of you when you're working for these companies?
The expectations are huge, actually. And when you're in a marketing position, you have to be really passionate about the product and the services. You have to know everything about the product. You have to know everything about how to deliver very high-end customer service, and you have to be passionate about it. And the expectations on you, that the more expensive the product and service, the higher expectations there are on you. And the expectations are things like launching a product, looking after the visual aspects of the brand, making sure you produce something that a high net worth individual will want to buy. And so the expectations really come from the customer and the client. Okay. So for example, at De Beers, where you have a single item product, which could be £1 million, it could be £10,000, £50,000, £1 million for a piece of very beautiful diamond jewelry, the expectations of the client are so huge. So that filters down into the brand, and as a brand you have to deliver. So and as an employee within that brand, you have to make sure you are on point with everything. You have to make sure that every part of your job, every project you deliver, every marketing piece you deliver, everything you do for the brand is absolutely perfect, because what you have to produce at the end has to be perfect in order for the customer to buy it. And it's not just about purchasing the product or service, it's about reputation. So with luxury, it's all about reputation. So if something goes wrong within the brand, you know, that can damage the reputation hugely. So, and I think that's what I enjoyed about luxury. I enjoyed marketing the products, and I enjoyed I just enjoyed everything about the quality and the craftsmanship and the service you deliver. So that's my passion.
So You mentioned that you enjoyed marketing the product. Can you give some examples of some of the job roles that you did for these companies?
So most of my roles were in the visual side of things. So I would look after the everything to do with the brand aspect. So everything to do with how the brand looks, both with marketing collateral, so things like brochures and cards and anything kind of tangible that went out to the clients, and anything that was available within the store. So that could be leaflets and brochures and receipts. Within a luxury brand, you have a cover that goes over the receipt, for example, you know, and bags.
Yeah, and those little details.
All the detail, yes. The packaging.
Sounds very creative.
Very creative. The packaging within each brand I worked for, I redesigned the packaging, in fact. So the new packaging, well, it's not so new anymore because it's a few years ago I did it, but the packaging at De Beers, for example, I designed that and I launched it. And the very famous box and bag for Jo Malone, I designed that. So, you know, there's things like that you do that have a lasting impact and you still see them today. So things like that are very exciting. So that's kind of, those were the type of things I did. And I also looked after the look of the stores, which is a really exciting thing to do, because that again is very tangible, and it's very important to have very high-end looking boutiques. So I would travel. I do a lot of traveling, global traveling, to go to the different cities wherever we were opening a new store, and design the store, work with the architects, work with the builders, work with the local agencies, and get this store built and furnished and looking beautiful, ready for a launch. So those are the types.
It must have been really difficult to, I can imagine, in a company like that, or companies like those ones, to gain that sort of trust and respect to be able to, you know, go and change stores and, you know, design packaging. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got there?
So luxury brands are very precious about who they use, the suppliers they use, for example. There's a very small, tight supply chain for luxury brands because a lot of it is about trust. So that word that you've just used, trust. So when you are redesigning packaging, for example, you will only be allowed to use very loyal agencies and loyal designers close to you, that you trust, that you know these people understand the product, they understand the service, they understand the client, they understand all of the brand aspects. And so you put a lot of trust in your designers and agencies, and so that's not just doesn't just apply to packaging, for example. It applies to the design of the stores. You have a list of very you have, in luxury, you kind of carry with you a little black book. So and in your little black book are all of your very loyal suppliers, and that's everything from an architect to a retail shop fitter to an artist to design artwork for the brand, to photographers, because you need photographers to take images for the iconography of the brand. So you take with you a little black book, and your little black book really kind of comes with you to every brand you go. So your loyal agencies, they really love it if you move to another brand, because you take them with you, you know, and they get more work. So a lot of it is about trust, because also there's a huge amount of money involved. And so if you use a new contractor or a new agency and they get it wrong, you actually lose an awful lot of money, and budget is everything. When you work in marketing, it's all about budget.
So it must take a lot of time to build those relationships with people, and for you to trust them, and vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Because everybody's reputation is at stake.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you throughout your time in marketing, you do take on new agencies now and then. And, you know, there is quite an interview process that happens when you do take on a new agency, and you want to meet with them. They take you out for a nice dinner. They try and wine and dine you and schmooze you into using them as a contractor on the company books. And you have to understand exactly who they are, and you have to have a lot of trust in them that they will do a good job for you. Yeah.
So moving on to the subject of luxury itself. I think for people who perhaps first hear about luxury in the course, one of the things that they might think about is, luxury is for the rich, and it's perhaps a snobbish thing, or it divides the society in terms of rich and poor. What are your feelings towards luxury as a concept and in society?
Yeah, so we've kind of been through the history of luxury is very interesting, because throughout society in the Western world, we have been through peaks and troughs of luxury being accepted, of having positive moral implications, when we've been through times where it's been morally unacceptable in society, where it's caused disruptive behavior and it's been seen as excessive, and it's caused a lot of negative behavior in society. Much more recently in our modern world, with technology, with globalization, democratization, modernization, with all of these concepts, we have seen an acceptable use and an acceptable sort of language of luxury. So today, I say today, I would say pre-COVID, we were living in a world of huge luxury consumption, and luxury has become something that we identify ourselves with. So whereas in the past it was more to do with social status, more recently in modern times it's more it has more connotations with identity. And people buy brands and people buy logos, and it's all about buying into luxury to enhance or adapt your identity. So that's kind of where we've got in society, and it's much more acceptable and it's much more available. And today we have terms such as mastige, the mass consumption of prestige brands. We have uber luxury or ultra luxury, and sort of which refers to very high end, sort of less acceptable luxury. Down the bottom end we have premium, for example. So you see in supermarkets a premium range because it's more of a high end tea or chocolate, or so these terms are so used, and the term luxury is ubiquitous today. It's so widely used that it
must change as well in terms of culture. So what luxury might mean to somebody in the UK, could be completely different to, say, somebody in India. And you have many, many international students from a range of countries on the luxury brand course. So do people come in with different concepts of what they think they're going to be learning, what it's about, and how do you deal with those expectations?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. On day one of the luxury brand management program, I do one exercise with my students, and I get them to think about what is luxury to them. And so I'm very lucky in luxury brand management. I have a very wide range of cultures on the program, and I have students from everywhere in the world. And I find it extremely interesting on day one, what is the idea of luxury for each individual? How do they perceive luxury? What is it to them? And so I get them to present a mini presentation, either a mood board or a little presentation, and I want them to tell me what luxury is to them. And it is very interesting, because in some countries it is all about a logo, it's all about show off behavior, it's about and I'm not saying that in a negative way, it's just
it's just what it is.
You use it to express your identity, and it's very obvious, a very obvious use of luxury. And then in some countries where luxury has been available for a long time, and it's more woven into the culture, there is a less show-off behavior,
Yeah, I would say in this country, when I was much younger, people would wear a logo, and now you don't want to be seen with some big logo on your clothes. So,
and that's how global, that's how it is moving in societies where the idea of luxury and the consumption of luxury is more mature. So where luxury has been, where modern luxury brands have been more available for a lot longer, there is kind of we call it a mature spending habit. So, you know, we've been through that phase of logos. We've been through that phase of wanting to show off the luxury goods we have, and because it's now so interwoven into society, it's so much more it's what I would call passé. We've done it, we've been there, we've done that, and now, because it's so widely available, it's not seen as luxury anymore. And now a luxury is something which is very unique, something that doesn't have a logo, something that, for example, if you were wearing an item of clothing or an accessory that was beautifully, you know, aesthetically, it was beautiful, it was made extremely well, it looked very, very different, and people would come up to you and say, wow, that's really beautiful, where did you get that from? And that's seen more as a luxury than something with a logo on, because it's so exclusive, because things today are so widely available because of mass production. If you have something that is very obviously made to a high level craftsmanship and a high quality, that is seen more as a luxury item.
So you're writing a PhD at the moment, is that right? And I read that you're doing it on the space in the airport, and the airport, for a lot of people, you know, when I first read that, I instantly thought, well, you know, that's somewhere where I might purchase a perfume. It's you know, you've got some time, there are many luxury shops, and you do tend to splurge out in the airport. I was just wondering if you know, why it is that you chose that topic, but that's just what came to my mind when I first read it.
There's a lot of aviation in my family, and so I've been brought up with aeroplanes, and being fortunate to be able to travel a lot. And in fact, I fly now, so you know,
when you say you fly, do you mean you actually fly the plane?
Yes. So I pilot an aircraft. So you know, there's God. So you know, aviation and so obviously my career with luxury and everything. So everything came down to that, and so I have a huge interest in luxury brands in the airport, and why. And a huge part of my PhD is to understand, why is luxury so important in the airport? And why is luxury spend so important in the airport? And the angle I look at it from is the space of luxury in the airport, and how the space of luxury is designed. So, so when I'm considering why is luxury important in the airport today, I look at why the airport is important. Why is the space in the airport important? Why do people feel that they can spend in the airport? It's
interesting when you say that, because when the history, you know, obviously you talk about, you know, nowadays everyone can fly, but you know, if we go back in history, it was seen as a glamorous, very glamorous space, and I wonder if it's that history of glamour that feeds into that a bit.
Absolutely, and that's a huge. I have quite a big chapter in my PhD, in my thesis, which looks into the history of the airport, and it's really interesting. You know, when you consider, like you say, you've touched on a really important point there, because when you look at the beginnings of commercial aviation, it was extremely glamorous. It was extremely expensive. It was for the rich and famous, and the personnel on the aircraft, the air hostesses, looked like models on a catwalk. And there was a word that came around at the time of the Boeing jet, the 747, when the 747 first came into use. And that's when we first got the word the jet set, because the jet referred to the aircraft, the 747, and the set were the people, the very glamorous people who could afford to fly. So that's where this word, the jet set, came about. And the jet set was, the jet setters, and they were around, and that word was used until the deregulation of the airline and opening airlines out to commercial revenue. So, and then what came with that was budget airlines, and and so it was perceived as less luxury, and so we had this decline in luxury over the years. So
the new luxury maybe become first class, and the lounges and those special things that you can find in an airport. The more exclusive places.
That's it, these exclusive zones. So as everything's become more accessible, we still need, in society, we still do need areas where it's perceived as more exclusive and more expensive.
When reading your bio, the word ambitious comes to mind. So you're obviously leading on the LBM program. You're a luxury brand consultant. You've won awards for your work and teaching. You're writing a PhD, and just in your free time to relax, you go and run ultra marathons. So what keeps you motivated, and what are your future goals?
Oh, that's a good question. So what keeps me motivated is I've always had within myself, within my core, I've always had this sense of achieving. So I'm happy when I'm achieving. And for me, different, everybody has a different level of perception of what achievement is. And I like to push myself to the next level with everything I do. So, for example, when I was in the corporate world, if I was at a certain level within a brand, I would have to be at the next level. If that wasn't enough, I would have to go to another brand. I was always achieving, always striving to get to the top of where I could. With my kind of personal sporting world, I used to be a GB triathlete. And so it wasn't enough just being a runner or a cyclist. I had to be a triathlete, and I couldn't just be a triathlete on a local level. I had to be a triathlete for the country and travel the world. I just have this drive, and I have this drive to get up every day and achieve the next thing, achieve the next level. And I've always been like that. And I think as long as I am able to, I think I will always be like that. So that's my drive. And what do I want to do in the future? Well,
so what were your future goals?
I
don't imagine that someone like you ever stops. So I can imagine that once you finish something, you're like, okay, what's the next challenge? And so,
absolutely.
I'm just interested to see what you're thinking about at the moment.
Yeah, so I've got to finish my PhDs. And then once I've completed that, I work part-time in the university, and I normally take on some very interesting business projects through my own consultancy. And so whilst running the program, and actually my next biggest goal is working out how we're going to best deliver a super duper program in 2021 for my students. And then and then after that, when the economy starts picking up a little bit, I want to take on some interesting projects in the business world.
I suppose you have to keep pushing that business side, because if you don't, you won't be able to keep up with the course as well. So it kind of feeds into each other.
Does. And you have to be relevant. You know, one huge part, you know, something that's very, very important for me is being relevant. So, you know, you have kind of the history of luxury and all of those things that you teach, but also you have to be able to teach contemporary luxury. You have to be able to teach about forecasting luxury, about what the future of luxury is, about contemporary issues in luxury, and business. You know, a huge part of it is the business of luxury, when you and how to manage luxury brands. That's what the program is, MA Luxury Brand Management. So me staying relevant in the business world is really, really important. So that's kind of, you know, that's really where the next stages of my ambitions is making sure that I can push my own business whilst you know, whilst at the same time running the program and everything else.
Okay, thank you so much, Debbie. It's been very, very interesting. Thank you for coming to Tea Talks.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.